Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast. My name is Gideon, and this is a podcast for all learners of English to practice and improve in a relaxed and natural way. And in this episode, we are going to talk about etiquette. Okay, that is the theme word for our chat, for our discussion today. We're going to look at what this word means, where it came from, and we're going to focus on a particular area that we should show etiquette and how we can do that. But before we get into that, we're going to chat about why on earth we are talking about that word etiquette. And if you are a returning viewer or listener, you will know that generally speaking, I have a story as to why I choose topics or things we're going to talk about. I have a story or a reason, and that is most certainly true for this podcast. But before we get into that, thank you so much for joining me again today. I hope you are doing well. I hope you've had a good week. This is your time. Just sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or tea. It's Sunday morning. It's time to chill. If you are listening to this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or throughout midweek and you're working hard, keep going. You've got it, whatever you're doing. But if you can, just take this time with me just to chill, relax, and enjoy the English language. One word that I loved when I lived in the Dominican Republic was tranquilo. Just relax. Life's busy. Life's crazy. We've got to have those little times where we just stop, take a breather, take a break, and just relax. And if you get an opportunity to do that with this podcast, then great. But of course, if you can, please don't forget to subscribe, like, follow, and introduce yourself in the comments. So, why are we talking about etiquette? Well, my wife and I last week? No, 2 weeks ago, I think, we went to the cinema. We went on a little date night to the cinema, and we went to see Moana 2. Okay, my wife and I are big Disney fans. Yep, we're adults, but we love Disney. And Moana is a brilliant film. If you know it, you know the soundtrack's fantastic. Love everything about that film. So we went on a little date night to go and see Moana 2. Which, I must say, the cinema's getting expensive here. I don't know if it's the same where you are, but the cinema's getting expensive. Okay, it's true. The cinema where we go, it does only have reclining seats. And as I'm getting older, I'm very much starting to enjoy those reclining seats. And that does come with a bit of a premium cost. So I think it's about £15 a ticket, which I still think is a lot, bearing in mind there's about 20 screens. So they're making their money's worth. But, you are getting something for it. A reclining seat, which I very much like. And if something reclines, basically means that it goes back. It doesn't disturb the people behind you. But the seat goes back and you can just get in a comfortable position, or a more comfortable position than you would be on a normal cinema seat. The biggest issue for me, I find, is that they're too comfortable and I very often fall asleep. I made it my goal not to fall asleep in Moana 2. I didn't succeed. I think I fell asleep for a total of 3 minutes before I got a strong nudge from my wife, which I did ask her to do. I did say, if I fall asleep at all in this, please give me a little nudge with your elbow, which she did. Probably a little bit more aggressive than I would have liked, but she did it. She did her job. So thank you for that. So we went to the cinema and we had, that's the film we were going to see, Moana 2. And there was an advert for another film, which is Wicked, which is a musical. Now, I haven't seen this film. I haven't seen the show. I don't really know anything about the story. But there were 2 showings for this film. And one was a sing-along and one was a normal version. Okay, so one screen and you go in, you sing along. The other one, you don't. And it's a musical. And apparently it's a musical that a lot of people absolutely love. And I've seen YouTube clips of different songs from that film and the theatre, and it does look very catchy. You know, the songs are great. But when I went to the cinema, there were two options. So you could go to the sing-along version of the film or the normal. And we looked up why this is. And apparently there has been a huge debate with this film as to whether one should sing along with the film if you know the lyrics. So just a normal screening of the film at the cinema, should you sing along with the songs if you know it? The words are not on the screen, you just know the songs well enough, and people have been singing along at the cinema. Now, at the outset here, my opinion is that is not okay. I don't agree with that. I have a problem with it. Okay, even if you love the songs, you love the story, you don't sing along. You know, it's not even quietly. I've seen videos where people are singing along at the top of their voices, just getting carried away. They love the moment. I even saw one video with a woman dressed as one of the main characters at the front of the cinema, facing the audience, singing along to them. Got massive issues with that, but we won't go into that. And it got me thinking about cinema etiquette. Okay? And so that's where we came to this episode. That's where we find ourselves. So in a moment, we'll jump into that word etiquette. Now, apparently, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, has said, if you want to sing along, you sing along. He's like given people this universal kind of, what's the word? Oh my goodness, my mind's gone blank. Universal kind of green light, shall we say, to sing along in the cinema. He was talking about Moana 2. But yeah, he said, if you've paid and you want to sing, you sing. Dwayne, I wouldn't say this to your face because you're an intimidating guy. You're huge, you're bigger than me, but I disagree. Okay? I disagree with you. Do you like the way I'm acting? Like there's a very slim chance that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, watches or listens to this podcast? No, of course he doesn't. But if by any means the universe sends this to The Rock, I disagree with you. Okay? I think you're wrong. And I was very pleased to find out they did eventually put separate showings. So yeah, it got me thinking about cinema etiquette. And it's an interesting thing, this, because there is etiquette in so many different areas of life. But what is it? What is etiquette? Well, let's have a look. Okay, so let's have a look at this word etiquette first and its origin and see where you stand. Okay, so we're going to go through a few different areas of etiquette, but let me know, where do you stand? Do you think singing in a cinema when it's not a sing-along showing is okay, or should that not happen? Okay, but what is etiquette? So etiquette is a set of social norms and rules that govern how to behave in society. So social norms, behaviour, things you do, actions that are just socially normal. Okay? What one would expect everyone else to act like. It's a code of conduct that helps people show respect, consideration, and empathy for others. Etiquettes can include using proper greetings, thanking service staff, dressing appropriately, being punctual, so being on time, not being late, and being mindful of language. So there's so many different areas in life that we just have etiquette that we follow. For example, if somebody invites you over, you knock on their door, you don't just walk into the house, do you? You say hello. You have a social greeting with them. You hug them or you give them a kiss, whatever. That's normal etiquette. You take a gift. Maybe you take a bottle of wine or something like that. You know, just etiquette. If somebody brings you, if a waiter or service staff brings you your food at a restaurant, good etiquette, you say thank you. You use your knife and fork. You don't eat with your hands. My grandma always had a problem with my elbows on the table, but etiquette evolves and changes, doesn't it, over time? Good etiquette, you dress appropriately. I wouldn't wear my swimming trunks to the theatre. That's actually an issue I have. This is completely off the cuff, but I went to the theatre recently, and I love going to the theatre to see a show in London. My wife and I, we really love it. But for me, it's an occasion to dress up. So my wife, she looked gorgeous as ever. I wore a shirt and trousers. We stood out like a sore thumb. We stood out. Everybody else was kind of dressed pretty normal. I think there was one guy in tracksuit bottoms. To me, that breaks the etiquette of the theatre. It's a nice occasion. There's a formality there, isn't there, to dress nice? But that's a whole nother matter. But, there's etiquettes to the way we dress, dressing appropriately. Good etiquette, being punctual, on time, not being late places, being mindful of the language that you use. For example, in public, it's generally socially normal to not use foul language in front of others. Just good etiquette. I love etiquette. Maybe it's just the British in me, but I really like etiquette. For example, if you are on a plane, I was talking with a student about this last week. You know who you are. If you're on a plane, we were talking about the etiquette, whether you recline your seat back or not. Where do you stand on that one? If you have the ability to recline or lean your seat back, do you do it? We came to the conclusion that it depends on the flight. If it's a short domestic or 4-hour flight max, there's no need. But on a longer flights, perhaps you need to get some sleep. You want to be more comfortable. Generally speaking, you might put your seat back. Maybe it's nice just to ask the person behind you. General etiquette. When you're driving, you don't drive too close to the person in front. You indicate. You stop at zebra crossings. Just general good etiquette. And there's so many situations in life that we just have social etiquette that we accept. It's a code of conduct that you just follow to show respect, consideration, and empathy for others. Where does it come from? I thought this was quite interesting. So the word etiquette comes from the French word etiquette. I just said etiquette with the same meaning. With the same pronunciation, sorry. I really apologise to anybody French out there. Please, by all means, give me a slap and correct my pronunciation. So that's what I'm going to do. English, etiquette. French, etiquette. Okay, that's what we're going to go with. So the word etiquette comes from the French word etiquette, which means label or small tag. The concept of etiquette began when Louis... I've forgotten my Roman numerals. I did this last week in the episode. My mind's gone blank. 5, 6. You're going to have to tell me I've completely forgotten my Roman numerals. I meant to write this down beforehand. I feel a fool. Okay, if you're reading along on YouTube, let me know what that is. I've always been terrible with my Roman numerals. So let me know what that is if you do know. When Louis of France used small tag or etiquettes to educate the royal court on proper behaviour, the king would print these cards to remind visitors of the rules, such as where to sit at dinner and what to wear. Very interesting, isn't it? So this Louis created basically a set of rules, a set of conduct, if you will, that those visiting the king would follow. Where to sit at dinner, what to wear, etiquettes. Small tags or labels. And this definition, like most words, has just evolved over time. So, okay, we had the tickets to court functions. These tickets listed the rules and what to do and where to stand. Etiquettes. Then it evolved into proper court behaviour. The French expanded the meaning of the word to include the proper way to behave in court. So then there were social norms, social expectations of how one would behave in court. Perhaps not shouting, things like that. And then it evolved to the rules of polite society. In the 18th century, the word etiquette was used to describe the rules of personal behaviour in polite society. And then, of course, that has just expanded to where we are today. And etiquette is an interesting thing because it really does change a lot from country to country. I would agree with that. But there are just social norms that are accepted throughout the world, aren't there? Etiquette that we would all generally follow. So this raises the big question, what about the cinema? What about cinema etiquette? Does singing break the code of conduct when it comes to the cinema? For me, it is an overwhelming yes. I think it massively breaks the code of conduct. It's against etiquette. So I Googled it, and then I came across this article, 10 must-know rules for the cinema. Basically, there's 9 in this. I don't know why I said 10. 9 must-know rules for the cinema. Okay? So basically, etiquette that we should follow when at the cinema. And I agree with, I think, pretty much all of these. So let me know if you agree with these. We're going to go through them one by one, looking at the vocabulary, and then see where we stand. Do we agree with all of them, or do we think they're a little bit strict at times? Okay, so the first rule, the first etiquette that we would follow is be on time. Yes, yes, and yes again. I could not agree more. There's nothing worse than a film opening with a pivotal opening scene when you get an "excuse me," or if you're in a cinema, it should be excuse me, sorry. Oh, was that your foot? Sorry. As people shuffle past you to find their seats. In the cinema, you want to be transfixed, and this is broken when people are waddling about in front of you. As a general rule, trailers or adverts go for 10 to 25 minutes before the film starts. So try to get there while these are still going, and definitely not after. Couldn't agree more. Get there on time. And it starts off by saying, there's nothing worse than a film opening with a pivotal scene. By pivotal, it's of most importance. It's a scene that is fundamental, it's vital to understanding the rest of the film. So imagine you're watching that scene and then someone walks in front of you. Excuse me. When you've taken the time to get there early, someone shuffle past you and just ruins the atmosphere. Or perhaps worse, you miss something from that pivotal scene. You want to be transfixed. You want to be completely focused, taken into the world of the film you're watching. And this is broken when people are waddling like penguins in front of you trying to get to their seat. Completely agree. Sometimes things happen and you can't get there on time. But I think we've all done it. We're not proud of it. Get there on time. So it talks about adverts going on as a rule for 10 to 25 minutes before the film starts. I'm a bit of a loser. I like to watch the adverts. I'm that kind of person that's in there 5 minutes before the adverts even start. I like the adverts. I like the trailers for the new films that are coming out. Yeah, so get there within that window. I would say best etiquette before the adverts and trailers. Okay, if you want to still maintain an element of social conduct that is acceptable, get there between the adverts, before the film starts, but definitely not after. The next one, sit in your allocated seat. So something is allocated, it is assigned, it is your seat, the one that you bought. While there is some leeway on this one, if it isn't a busy session, if you're seeing the latest blockbuster on a Saturday night, make sure you're in the right seat. There's nothing more awkward than being asked to double check your seating arrangements as you do the walk of shame to your lesser seats ahead. Okay, sit in the seat you've been assigned. We don't always get the seats we want. There might be a better seat available when we walk in, but that's not your seat, particularly if it's a busy film. So it said there might be some leeway, or there might be some room on this one. This might not necessarily be as strict if you're seeing a film that's not that popular or it's been out for a long time. You can, once the film is about to start, maybe change your seat, but, sit in your allocated seat where you've been assigned. I know there's a lot of cinemas near me, actually, where you don't get assigned a seat. I hate that. I think that's really stressful. I like to know what seat I've got, where I'm sitting, and even if it's a bad seat, I take it on the chin. It is what it is. But sit in the right seat. Even if you see a seat that is empty, that looks better than yours, don't do it. Don't be tempted. This is my opinion. And you don't want to sit in that seat, then have to do that awkward walk of shame to your seat that's not as good at the front. You don't want to do it. It's awkward, it's awful, and also you don't want to disturb someone else in the film. So, good etiquette, sit in your allocated seat. Next one. Have awareness of personal space. While on the topic of seating etiquette, putting feet, especially those without shoes, on the seat in front of you is a big no-no, as is armrest hogging or not supplying enough room for people to get past. Consider what you would appreciate and do the same to your audience. So yeah, personal space. Now, very lucky, as I said earlier, the cinema near me, you get a lot of room with your seat. It reclines back, it's lovely, but there is an armrest. And I think it's important to respect space when it comes to armrest. You don't want to hog the whole thing. To hog means to, control the space. It's your space. You don't leave it for anyone else. And of course, putting your feet on the seat in front of you is just a big no-no. Even if somebody's not in it, it's just not very polite, is it? Your dirty shoes. Or worst case, you take your shoes off and you put your feet on the top of someone's seat, particularly if they're sitting there. No, that's gross. Have awareness of personal space. It's a nice point, kind of a rule of life, isn't it? Do to others what you would like them to do to you. So consider what you would appreciate and do the same to the audience. You wouldn't appreciate someone's feet above your head. Don't do it to them. Okay. The next point, phones on silent. A great cinematic experience is one where you are completely absorbed by the storyline on screen. Nothing breaks this more than a person with the big flashing light of a smartphone, or even worse, the dreaded Ring. Turn it off and put it on silent and put it away for the rest of the movie. I've just had a horrible thought that I haven't clicked record on this podcast. Oh my goodness. I have clicked record. I just saw a flashing light that usually says I haven't. I was about to cry. I thought I hadn't clicked record then, but I have. It's all right. Yeah, phone's on silent. That's one, no matter what your country you're in, where you're from. It goes on silent, doesn't it? For that cinematic experience, the reason we've gone to the cinemas, we want to be absorbed into that film, don't we? We want to be part of it. We want to just forget about life, work, the stress of everything we have to deal with, and we just want to focus on that film. Nothing breaks that absorption, that immersion more than somebody on their phone. You can just see the glare of light onto their face, or phone ringing. I was in a cinema probably about 6 months ago where the phone rang and I thought, oh, okay, we'll let that slip. Next thing I hear, hello? No, I'm in the cinema. Cinema. I'm in the cinema. I'll call you later. I'll call you later. And I just, oh my goodness, I wanted to throw a piece of popcorn at them. I just couldn't, but that breaks etiquette as well. Don't leave a mess. We'll go on to that in a moment. But I couldn't believe it. Not only did the phone ring and you just ignore it, put your phone on silent. You could have, still not really following social etiquette, but you could have sent a message saying, sorry, I'm in the cinema. Not answer it at quite a high volume, and then when they can't hear you, repeat yourself again and again. Yeah, very angry. I could hear others around me in a very British way, tutting, like huffing, not saying anything. But yeah, put it on silent, put it away for the rest of the movie. You think about it as well, you've paid to see it, so you might as well enjoy it. It's nice to have a break from the phones, I think. Keep the chatter for the end of the movie. By chatter, we mean talking. While movies are a wonderful place to catch up with friends, go on dates, and go on a family outing, they are not the place to talk about what you had for dinner. try to keep the chatter to a minimum, or if you must, to a whisper to the person next to you so as not to disturb the audience's viewing experience. I even disagree with that, to be honest. Just don't talk at all. There might be a little whisper saying, "You enjoying it? Yeah, good. That's it." Or, "Oh, like this film. Oh, I'm scared. Nothing. Do you want to sip of my popcorn? Just sip of my popcorn. Do you want to sip of my drink and a little bit of popcorn?" Something like that. Whispering at low volume. But it's not a place to have a chat, is it? It's not a place to talk or disturb others. And I think more and more this law, I'm going to call it, is getting more and more laxed. People are talking in the cinemas. They're chatting, nattering away. And I also fundamentally believe that this goes to when you are talking outside the cinema as well. I had it once when I was about to go and see a really anticipated film. And the people coming out of the showing before me were talking about the end of the film. I overheard, ruined it. So I think if you are going to talk about the storyline or the plot, good etiquette says you wait till you're far away from that screen. Wait till you're in the car on the way home or outside the cinema with your friends. Yeah, but when you're in the cinema, chatter to a minimum. This is an interesting one. I don't have children, but consider whether your kids are ready. The movies can be a magical place for kids to explore the latest fun stories to hit the screen. However, if you are unsure if your little one has the attention span for James Cameron's latest 3-hour epic, Avatar, or is having one of those days that requires a lot of bathroom visits, it may be better to have a cinema experience at home for today. Many cinemas also provide baby-friendly sessions and junior-tailored cinema experiences designed for that little bit of chaos that children can bring. That's true, isn't it? Consider whether your kids are ready. I guess this is for you. Also saves a bit of money, doesn't it? If your kids aren't ready, just watch films at home. But also, a cinema can be a lovely, such a memorable experience when you are a kid. If you go at the right time. I remember my grandfather took me to see Toy Story. Pretty sure that was my first film in the cinema. And I remember it to this day. What year was that? Was that 94 or 95 it came out? But that was just a core memory I have. But I was ready. I loved the film. Watched the whole thing. Absolutely brilliant. But if you go a little bit, if kids are too young, then although you might want to experience that, maybe just wait until they're old enough or go to a tailored showing which is for children that age. They do them in my local cinema, actually. But yeah, great experience when kids are old enough. Now, this next one touches on what I spoke about a minute ago. Avoid spoilers. Spoiler, clues in the name, something that spoils or ruins the film. Perhaps you have seen online about how the film ends. You read it in the book version, or you've already seen the film. That's great. But keep it to yourself. Some people are seeing it for the first time and would like to watch the magic unfold on screen on their own. And no, other cinemas don't want to know, "Oh, this part is really cool," before it happens. Just don't say anything. I used to have a friend, I say used to, clues in the word in there. They would always look up what happens in the film before watching it. Who does that? And then they would kind of look at you or say, "Oh, this bit's going to be good." Or you'd kind of just go into the film knowing that they already knew what was going to happen, and it just ruins the whole experience together. So avoid spoiling it for others. If you know something about the film, keep it to yourself. That's good etiquette, isn't it? Or if you've seen it before and you know something good is coming up, you don't just nudge them and say, "Oh, wait for this next bit." Or what film were we watching recently that my wife had already seen and I hadn't watched? I can't remember what it was. And halfway through, she went to me, "Have you got the twist yet?" Well, I hadn't. I didn't even know there was a twist coming. But now I know there's a twist. It was a bit of a problem. We spoke about it for a couple of hours. But yeah, any comments like that, as well-meaning as they are, sorry, it goes against cinema etiquette. There's no need, really, to say anything, is it? You want to watch the magic unfold. You want to watch everything just develop on its own. without any preconceptions or preconceived ideas or any knowledge of what is going to happen. So avoid any kind of spoiler. This next one's a little bit harsh, but we'll go with it. Time your eating and drinking. One of the best parts of the cinematic experience is movie food. Popcorn, choc tops, no idea what that is, and snacks aplenty. Just try to be mindful of when you decide to crunch on those corn kernels, slurp that soft drink, or rustle that plastic packaging that it's not during a heart-wrenching or pivotal scene. And on the topic of food, try not to bring in hot food from another venue. Save the sloppy joes and tuna for home. You can tell this is an American written article. So yeah, one thing we all love about the cinema is the snacks, isn't it? The drinks, the popcorn, adds to the whole experience. But once we've got our popcorn, I like a mix of salty and sweet, and a Coca-Cola. We want to pick the timing, generally speaking, of when we eat these things. So picture the scene. Extremely emotional film. Towards the end, someone's dying. The whole cinema's in silence. It's emotional. And then you just hear the slurp of a soft drink. Let me know in the comments, was that a good slurp impression? I'm quite proud of it. I practiced it before, but I think that one went quite well. But yeah, so it's just ruined the whole scene, isn't it? Just somebody slurping on their drink. Or perhaps there's a really important piece of dialogue that might be a little bit quieter, and you've just got somebody rustling away trying to open their sweets or crunching on some Pringles. Stop it. Maybe that's the time not to eat. Maybe that's the time not to drink. Just wait. Wait until there's a bit of a louder scene. Maybe it's something we don't think about. Good etiquette though, isn't it? Something to put into practice. Sloppy joes. We don't have them in England, but I'm pretty sure it's like a hot dog filled with like chili, I think. But yeah, not in hot food. Not necessary, is it? Just get your sweets, popcorn, drinks, eat them at the right time. And finally, good etiquette says clean up after yourself. While you do not have to get on the floor and pick up every piece of popcorn, it is polite to clean up after yourself and take your rubbish with you. It can help save time for the cinema workers and cleaners between sessions and helps recycle your waste appropriately. I was actually really shocked that when we went to see Moana 2 a couple of weeks ago, the state that the cinema was left in, it was actually really sad. And as it says here, this isn't proper etiquette, isn't picking up every single little piece of popcorn that you might have dropped, but just generally, taking your wrappers out with you, drinks cans, the little box that the popcorn comes in, take it out, put it in the bin. Just good etiquette, isn't it? And, it's just kind of that is one of those general rules of the social norm that is put into place in so many areas of life. Clean up after yourself. And that's part of the cinema etiquette. Now, you notice in everything that we looked at, we didn't talk about singing. It didn't raise singing. But I think from the general feeling that we're getting about cinema etiquette, it's kind of looking like, don't sing in a film. There's no need, is there? There's absolutely no need to sing in the cinema. Don't sing along unless it's a singing session or a singing showing. That's the final verdict. That's where I stand on it. Let me know in the comments. Singing in the cinema, yes or no? Even if you love the film, should you sing along or should you keep quiet? So yeah, hope you enjoyed that today. And just as a note, films are a brilliant way of learning English. I know this is kind of spoken about a lot, but never undermine how good they are to learn a language, particularly a film you've already seen. And I say this because you know the story, you know what's going to happen, and you can just focus on the language that is used. You're relaxed, you're not worried about keeping up with the story, understanding the plot. So never be ashamed to go back to a film you have watched many times, one of your favourites, watch it in English and just take in the English language. Superb way of just practicing and improving in a relaxed and natural way, which I am all about. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As always, you know I love you all. I really appreciate your support. It means the world to me. We're always growing each week, and you keep tuning back in. So that's just a good sign to keep on going. So thank you so much, and I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one, guys.